hello, everyone. Welcome to another Community Conversations. This is our second episode of our series that we're doing with my co-host. Yeah, I got on the right side this time. My co-host over there, David Marshall, on our pathway to LGBTQ parenthood. Tonight's episode is going to be around parenting LGBTQ children. Like we said, we have a series of conversations, series of topics we're going to talk about over the next few months, and we thought it was important to really create space for this conversation. David?
I am David Marshall, CEO and founder of Journey to Josiah Incorporated. I help 2S LGBTQIA plus families navigate the world of adoption and fostering. Just as Kenya said, we launched this series kind of just on the fly, I'll say, just having conversation, but then realizing in our own conversation the necessity of further conversations, for lack of a better way of putting it, because there's so many things that, especially in this time, that we are facing as a community. So it is so necessary that we create space and give a place for these important conversations that are very, very pertinent to our community.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. David, you have something coming up, don't you?
I do.
I'm
and I'm a little bit excited.
Yeah, let me play a video. We can talk about it.
Welcome to the Journey to Josiah podcast. I'm your host, David D. Marshall, founder and CEO of Journey to Josiah Incorporated.
Dramatic.
Don't you like the drama? See,
I love the drama.
The audience doesn't know I'm an opera singer by profession, so they ain't nothing but high drama in the world of opera. So we had to give it that. I'm excited about this podcast. This is another space and place for members, not only of our community, but of the adoption community at large, and then also and then those who are navigating family building from other areas. So I have adoptive parents, I have adoptees, authors, mental health workers, adoption agencies. Actually, two of our panelists tonight, Jennifer and Morgan, who you'll meet later, are also guests on the show. So it's another safe space to have very, very critical conversation. So we are launching in January, and actually, I'll just go ahead and drop that date. It's January 5th, but if you follow me on social media, you'll see all of that where we'll be streaming and all that good stuff. Oh yes, Kenya.
Yeah, there it goes. Let them see the work. All right. So tonight's episode is actually, supported by some amazing folks, right? From amazing group, amazing organization, PFLAG. I've been doing some work with PFLAG through the Center for Black Equity for a few years now, and we talked about this just in side conversation, and it only made sense to bring them involved into this conversation. So before we really get into the nitty-gritty of it, I did want to bring up on the screen a representative from PFLAG National, Angelina Leon. Hey, oh, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Kenya. Thank you, David. Hi, everyone. I'm Angelina. I am the Senior Manager for our Partnerships and Communities program here at PFLAG. And just to talk a little bit about PFLAG, PFLAG is an organization that works to create, hopefully, a caring and affirming world for LGBTQ plus people. And the way that we do that is by supporting LGBTQ plus people, their families, and educating allies on how to push forward this work. And we do that through advocacy, through training, and through support groups. I'm going to do a shameless plug. One of the programs that we have is our communities programs, which is a national, online, so virtual, moderated space for folks of different communities that share similar backgrounds to come together and be in the support space. We do have one. We have four. We have currently we have four, and we're looking to expand. We have one for Black and African American members, and you don't have to be a member of PFLAG to join these groups. So that's I think that's a plus. We have the Latino group, the military group, and the AAPI group. And the next meeting that we have for specifically for our support group for our Black and African American group will be January 9th at, hold on. Yes, January 9th at 9 p.m. And if you need any information about that, I'm sure that Kenya can pass along the link.
Absolutely. You can see the link right there. Can they find it on their website?
Yes.
PFlags.org? Yep.
If you just type in PFlags communities, you'll be able to see the list of different support groups that you can join.
Amazing.
Incredible.
Thank you so much. That's great information to know. I think a lot of folks don't know of these resources. A lot of parents don't know about the resources that are available for them for all communities through PFLAG. So thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you for hanging out with us. Right, you're gonna hang out with us for a little bit. All right. So without further ado, because we have a great lively panel tonight, what I want to do is I am going to start with Edith. I'm going to start with Edith. Let's bring Edith up. Hey, Edith, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks.
All right. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Edith.
Well, I am coming to you tonight from Kansas, first of all. And I am married, and we are the parents of Brian, who is non-binary at age 41, who came out to us at when they were 14, a long time ago. That was 1996, and the world was very different then. And Brian has a brother, Michael, who is 35, and lived with understanding what it was to be part of a family that has a non-binary. He has a non-binary brother. At that time, the world was really different, and we were working. I was working for the church. But the United Church of Christ, which is an affirming denomination. And so for us, it was not a big deal. And actually, I learned that as I look back, that it was not a big deal was a big mistake. Because it was not a big deal for us, but it was a big deal for Brian. And so our acting like it was not a big deal, because all of our friends, so many of our friends and acquaintances were LGBTQI, and it was just part of our lives. But it was not part of Brian's life in school. And so it was like Brian was living this double life. And how hard it was at the time.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the lessons that I carry with me now about how important it is to remember the context that your child is living in, because there are many different contexts. Your church may or may not be affirming, your family may or may not be affirming, and your child is moving in all of those different worlds.
Yeah.
And what is it like for them as they move in and out of those different worlds?
Yeah.
So Brian and I talk about that a lot now. That's one of the parenting kind of wish I could do over, but I can't. So.
But you know what, Edith, I just want to interject that. You know what's so unique about that, though, is I think you are the first person who I have actually heard who has said that they had the problem of their child kind of almost being in a space where they were accepted, and then it was the reverse, where the fear was what was going to happen on the outside. Am I hearing you correctly in that?
Yeah,
Family community.
Yeah, everybody, Brian, our family, our church, totally affirming, totally accepting. Brian wanted to come out totally at school, but in 1996, not safe.
No.
Not safe. And so we said, no, you can't do that. Not that we were ashamed, but it simply was not safe. He was already, I mean, in this white world, quite frankly, that we lived in. And then LGBTQ is simply not safe. And so it was like he was going in and out, in and out, in and out. Couldn't fully be themselves. And it was only later that we realized the trauma that caused him, that created for him, not being, because acceptance by us and by the church and all that acceptance, but they were 14.
Yeah.
They were 14. So all of that still wasn't enough because of the world that a 14-year-old lives in. Wow. So that was 1996. It's a different world now. But the context, so always be conscious of the context that your child is living in. Yeah. Because you don't know. They go in and out, in and out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. David?
And so next we're going to bring to the screen Mr. and Mrs. Morgan Testerman. So there's a little personal thing with them. For me, I actually went to school with Jennifer in some years that we probably won't talk about, but we've heard some of them maybe mentioned by Edith. Nonetheless, I have been so very, very heartened by their boldness as parents of LGBTQ children. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole introduction. They're going to do that, but I just needed to put that out there and how we were connected. So, Morgan, Jennifer, I'll let you all take it.
Hello, my name is Morgan Testerman, as David has already said. My wife, Jennifer, I don't speak for her, but this is a first for us, so a little nervous. But yes, proud parents of 2 LGBTQ children. One who is 24, male. He is gay. And then we have a 14-year-old transgender boy named Oliver. The oldest is named Aaron. So it's been quite a journey. Yeah. In navigating, because they're 2 totally different ways to parent. There's 2 types of situations. Yeah. One is a little harder than the other, because one is way less accepting even today than the other, meaning that it is a little more accepting for a gay child than our transgender child. Even for us to accept in the start was very difficult.
It's confusing. It was hard to understand initially, because it was, I guess the best way to say is just confusing. I think Aaron being gay was not confusing. It was okay, that's great.
Much more simple than 1996.
It felt simpler, sure. Yeah. But we've grown into the role for sure.
Yeah.
We've learned a lot. We still have a lot more to learn.
Your children will help you grow in that role as well if you allow them.
Absolutely. Yeah. They've taught us so much. And we have lots of questions, and they're full of answers for us, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for having us, too.
Absolutely.
Thank you all. And that's what this is about, right? This is about, yeah. Go ahead, David.
I just was thanking them for joining us. No, you go ahead, Kenya.
I was going to say, this is what this is about, right? Creating, conversation of what it was, and just finding out areas of support. And we haven't finished introducing all the panelists, and I have so many comments already coming in. I have one from Al, who talks about, foster kids going through similar trials, and a lot of them in the foster care system are LGBTQ as a foster care survivor. Thanks for that. Actually, on last month's conversation, we had that discussion that came up, and that will be something we're going to talk about in one of our other ones. Twan McRae said, it's amazing to see the support from parents. The reason I transitioned later in life is because of lack of family support. I'm 41 and my mother is still grieving my old self. We still have to understand our parents are transitioning with us as well. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yeah, thank
and you know what? I don't want to press ahead, and I won't, but what I will say to that last comment is I can attest to just having had I told you all in my little plug earlier that I interviewed Morgan and Jennifer, and they spoke very, very poignantly to that very thing. So when we come a little bit further in, I definitely know I want to swing to them because I loved the information that they gave me, and I want them to share that with you all.
Thank you. All right, the next guest, all the way from Philadelphia. I'm going to bring up another P flag. Specialist, professional, I don't know the term to use. Sheila.
Good evening. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you. Thank you for having me. My name is Sheila Lorette Emerson. My pronouns are anything respectful. Frankly, I'm good. As long as it's respectful, thumbs up. I am the proud parent of an LGBTQ plus child who is actually, my children are adults at this point, and very, very proud. I had a very different experience from some of the other panelists. So I grew up in a family where, I had trans family members, I had gay family members. So when my child came out to me and said, "Hey, by the way, I'm like, okay, cool. Let's get you hooked up." I said, when I drop your sister off at college, there's going to be a party up the street. And if you want to go to the party, I can hang around, not a problem. And then you can go in and meet your people. And my child was like, "If you don't calm down." It's completely accepting. Matter of fact, let me just tell you, my child was totally comfortable revealing their sexuality to me and what they choose, how they identify rather. But they were terrified to let me know that they forgot to put the trash out. And that was, that's what they were terrified about. But in terms of bringing up their identification, not a problem. And so my experience has been very, very different. I'm very fortunate that we are in Philadelphia, which is a very, in the bubble that I'm in and the world I move in, it's very accepting. And then what's really beautiful is that our particular chapter networks with a lot of the other LGBTQ plus organizations in the tri-state area. And we partner with them in terms of activities. We have a Valentine's party that is just affirming, all ages welcome. And we do that with Galay. We do that with Philadelphia Family Pride. And we also do that with Rainbow Cubs. And then also, we are really excited to be working with PFLAG New York City to start bringing into the Philadelphia school system, the Safe Schools program. So we're all about networking, learning about resources, sharing resources, being advocates, being supportive. And if you need a hug, we'll give you a hug too.
That's awesome.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
Also, next up from Philadelphia, the social media maven, Mr. TJ Rose.
Hey. How's it going, everybody? TJ here. I am the father of 3 kids, young kids, one trans daughter. I came into this through marriage and one through IVF, which is my embryo. And with our with our middle, it's when she first told us she was trans, we were very accepting, we were loving, and she knew who she was, right? And the fact that she had the support system around her made her feel even more comfortable to come out. And that is something that kids need in today's world, right? Because when I was a kid, being trans myself, I did not have that support system, and it took me over 20 years to finally transition. And this is from me growing up in Jamaica. And I know everybody has heard the story of being gay in Jamaica, or what that's like. So that wasn't the easiest thing. So now I parent my kids as if, well, I parent them the way I wasn't. And I think if I grew up in a loving household, I couldn't imagine what my life would have been like, or me emotionally. And a lot of parents don't think about the effects mentally and emotionally that not giving them the love and acceptance that they need to just be themselves, how it affects us. And like, my mom was not the greatest, but she came around. She's now like my biggest advocate, and it took her years. It took a very long time. My father, not so much. He still does not acknowledge me, and he hasn't even said anything about his granddaughter. But as someone said, like, our parents are transitioning too. I just don't think that's him. He's just stuck in his old ways, and parents need to put themselves last when it comes to their kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so surprising how so many parents are not willing to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. This Bishop Holly Garson said that he's about love, acceptance, and affirmation is key. Thank you for sharing, TJ. And I knew I heard an accent, and as I'm also Jamaican, so as you start talking, it starts coming out more, and I was like, okay, there it is. There it is. Thank you for joining us. And last but not least, I'm not sure where Paul is from, actually. So, Paul, I'm going to pull you up and tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from. Oh, if I could hit the right button. There we go. No, didn't? Okay, there we go. Hey, Paul.
Jamaica as well. Jamaica, Queens.
Jamaica Queens.
First of all, thanks everybody for sharing their stories. I mean, it means so much to hear from others, and certainly, in my case, as it sounds like in many cases, we're still going through a journey. I mean, a journey just to be able to offer as much love and support as we can. And TJ, thanks for sharing your remarks. And Morgan and Jennifer, my remarks are somewhat like yours in that we experienced a lot of resistance and discomfort in our family initially. So it wasn't just so easy that, okay, we have a trans kid, no problem, let's move forward. It was actually a pretty difficult process. So what I would say is that our oldest child, at the age of 6 or 7, we suspected that he was gay. And then we became pretty certain at the age of 12. He came out at 17. We were like, okay, we knew this was coming and fine. And we did things along the way, like we didn't allow him to be in the Boy Scouts where he wanted to be with his friends because they were kind of anti-LGBTQ, et cetera. And we totally supported his interest in the arts rather than sports, which had been a tradition among boys in our family. But our youngest, our middle child, when our middle child was born, we knew day one that he was gay or something, because day one, he had more feminine qualities than masculine qualities. But what we did as parents is we forced him into boy activities. We forced him to play sports, and we seemed to resist. And wanted, since we weren't certain, we wanted to influence him to be more conventional. And we went through this period up until he was about 15, 16 years old, when he indicated that he felt more like a girl and would like to go through a transition, etc. So what we did was there's this program called the Ackerman Institute for Families, and they have a gender affirming institute. And as a family for 2 years, all of us went through this process of figuring out how we're going to deal with gender issues in our family and supporting our middle child who wanted to go through all the surgeries to transform, and then supporting our older child who wanted to be gender queer and identify as a she or they, but not have any of the surgeries, etc. And that was a beautiful experience. However, we still have issues in our journey, and that is our oldest two have gone about expressing their gender in very different ways, and there's a lot of tension between the two of them, and not really an understanding or appreciation or acceptance of each other, and that really affects the family. Unfortunately, we do think that as they're going to become more secure in their identities, that in fact their relationship will heal a bit and they'll become closer. But right now, there's a fair amount of tension that's really uncomfortable. And for our youngest, who's a cisgender straight male, who just loves his siblings, etc. Also for him, because he's been largely ignored, because the other two just create so much drama and so much. He just grew up nobody paying attention to him, etc. And fortunately, he just went off to college, and he was like happy to get away from all the drama in our house, because there's a lot of drama in our house with two trans daughters figuring themselves out and having a misunderstanding. So I would say that in our particular case, it's still a journey. Like, I have much more difficulty understanding, relating to our gender queer daughter versus our trans daughter who's gone through all the surgeries. Our gender queer daughter, sometimes I'm just going to be honest and open about like my discomfort. Well, like some days go outside, clearly looking trans, like a male body with like a dress on and everything feminine. And then other days dressing up kind of more like a man. And, it shouldn't be about my comfort. It should be about supporting her in any way, but it does make me uncomfortable. And it does, cause like anxiety or not knowing, because when she's obviously so dressed like a trans, she's already been beaten up twice. She's, she's much more vulnerable. Our middle child's like unclockable. You wouldn't know that she's trans, and that's, she can ease into society more comfortably. But our oldest is always making a statement, always political, always in your face, and it's caused her to be the subject of violence twice, and it causes us like a little discomfort, confusion, misunderstanding. So anyway, that's all I want to say. Thanks.
Thank you for your honesty and vulnerability.
Yeah.
Go ahead, David.
Thank you very, very much for that. I want to kind of stay in a certain space based on what Paul has shared. And so for whomever this is relevant to, I want you to chime in. What I am hearing from Paul in particular is that there were, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, some fears there. Yes?
Yeah, sure.
There were some fears. So I want to absolutely. So what I want to, and we can start with you, Paul, since we just ended with you, and then I want to hear from other parents. What were some of your greatest fears for your children? And Paul, you can start. We just left off with you. If you want to start, you can go ahead and start.
The greatest fear that I have, especially for my gender queer daughter, but even for my trans, I'll start. My trans daughter, who's middle, in the middle, who's completely transformed. Her issues right now, she's in college. She says, "Who do I tell? When do I tell? Do I need to tell? If I start dating somebody, do I need to tell them on the first date? Do I tell the person on the second date? Am I a subject of danger?" And for example, I'm not I'm not trans. I don't know necessarily how to advise her in those questions, but I know she's struggling with those questions. I mean, she's never had any regrets about transforming herself, never any regrets at all, but she's trying to find her way. And so it's frustrating for me and fearful in a way, because I'm not, I know she's uncomfortable sometimes and she's trying to figure it out. So that's her. And for our oldest, just because of her need to be so politically active and in your face all the time, and she's in our face sometimes, as she makes us feel uncomfortable. She makes me feel uncomfortable at times, and it's just part of being a kid. She wants to do it. I worry about her. I worry about her most. I worry about her danger. Where does she go to the bathroom? How is she perceived? Since she's been beaten up twice, is she going to be beaten up again? She goes to protest all the time. She takes like a leadership role in protest. So I worry that those are concerns.
Thank you for sharing that, Paul. Any other parent want to chime in that same space? What were some of your greater fears here?
Well, I'll say that, Brian presents as a Black male. And so I always worry about him getting hurt. I worry about them getting hurt. That's doubled by there being LGBT. And so there's always the fear that I have that where they go will put them in more danger. I just do.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And that was part of why we did not want them to come out in high school, that they would get hurt.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you for that. And we want to dig a little deeper into these, but I want to go around and hear from as many as possible. And I want to kind of dig a little bit more into some of these concerns, we'll say. Anybody else want to share a fear that they had?
I think a general fear for any parent that is parenting LGBT. I messed up the alphabet, and that sounds terrible, but I just, in my brain, I just can never get it right.
All right, you're still in a safe space. We will not kick you out.
But I think a general fear for any parents is them being a target for being themselves, their authentic selves, and coming across someone that has a problem with that. So that is always there. I feel like there's more fear with Oliver, who is our trans son, especially being young and wanting to use the men's room, not because I feel like there's a gay man in there that could want to touch him, because that's ridiculous, but just being targeted for being trans. I think mostly people will see him as female. They automatically choose the she, her pronouns. He has not transitioned. He's 14. I think a major fear for me, and my heart rate's elevated right now just thinking about it, is I have heard stories of people that have transitioned and later regretted it. And I feared that he would make these changes and then not want, then realize that's not what he wants. I'm okay with him making a transition and being and staying transition. That's not the problem. I just know I can only relate from my experience being a teenager and how I'm nowhere near the same person that I was then. So I fear regret on his behalf, but I can only support him. And I will sit here and say, I did not know that there was a P flag, that it existed, that there was groups that could help you with this. And Paul saying like, what an amazing tool that's been for him. So that has encouraged me to look deeper into that and want to find my local group and be a part of that. I feel like that can really help us with that transition part, because the older that Oliver gets, the less that fear is there, because it's more apparent that this is who he feels most comfortable as, and we really just need to get the ball rolling on that, because we started with the name because he had anxiety just over school announcing we named him Madison when he was born. And just like when he graduated 8th grade, they put Madison in the little flyer that they put out. And he had a tremendous anxiety that they were going to call Madison for him to cross that stage. And that's when we knew we need to legally change his name so that we can eliminate that immediately. That doesn't have to be a problem any longer. But I really think that we need a group such as that can help us navigate that, for sure.
Yeah. My biggest fear with him was the inability to still be authentic with himself, with being that he's very empathetic towards humans in general, that when people would misgender or really kind of shut him down, that he would shut down, because he's not the type of person to shut down. He's very animated with the way he wants to come across, very energetic. And I was afraid that would be lost in him, because he's been that way his whole life. And the hardest part for me was, I guess, more rationalizing situations. A name was so important to him, but at the same time, we have feelings as well. And we had to get across, like, just because you have feelings doesn't mean other people don't. We have to find a common ground here. And we got to work from there and move up. And we did. It was tough. I said, you can't get mad at us verbally for misstepping. Have a conversation with us. Don't yell at us. So then that helped. And just being able to guide and have conversation is the key. And let them know that the world really does suck. Just as long as I can be supportive and mom can be supportive, he knows that in these four walls that he's safe and that we'll protect him as best we can. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Yes. Sheila, I don't think you went. Do you want to share?
My fears for my children have come out of my experience growing up. Childhood trauma and surviving that. And I decided that for my children, I didn't want to be afraid for them. I wanted them to be warriors and be able to handle the bullies and the bad actors in the world. So I put my kids in self-defense classes. I took them to the gun range. I got the mace, showed them how to appropriately use mace. So my children at this point are very empowered women. And when they are outside and someone is being inappropriate with another human being, both of them are fearless and they will go up and say, oh no, you're going to stop that. I'm going to call 911, but you are going to stop that. And just willing to go in and help their fellow human beings who are being bullied or attacked. So again, that's out of an outgrowth of me dealing with childhood trauma and saying to myself, I am not going to have fearful children and I'm not going to be afraid for them. I'm going to make sure that I give them as many skill sets as possible that as let's face it, in this country, if you are a person of color, if you're black, there's institutional racism, there's systemic racism in dealing with all of that. So it was more my fear of them just being black in America and surviving all that entails. That's what I was really afraid of. And then with them also being female in this country, being women and dealing with the gender issues, I was very concerned about that. And so I can honestly say that because I have them go through so much training in terms of self-defense and learning how to defend themselves, that at this point I'm pretty confident that they can handle a situation. So like they say, don't start nothing, won't be nothing. Don't start nothing with my kids, it won't be nothing. So that's my mindset with them, and that's their mindset. They're very empowered women.
Amazing. Thank you. Go ahead, David.
Thank you very much for that. I love that. I love that take. In that it really is for us as parents, one of the main things that we do want to do is create that self-assurance for them to help them to be self-assured in who they are. And so I love that your take was to figure out how to empower them, that you didn't want to live in a space of fear so much, but to teach them to be fearless. I
Right.
love that. And it's also a different dynamic. And this is also one of those very, very touchy ones in terms of what is the scarier thing to be in this country, a member of the 2S LGBTQIA plus community or to be Black. And so you saying that hit a whole nother thing, because I guess it's a lived experience situation, and which one we weigh, or do we weigh them? I don't know. But I thank you for at least initiating that, because that's a whole nother dynamic there.
Yeah.
Yes, it
Can I
is.
mention something to Jennifer and Morgan? And that is that in our household, often my wife and I were told that weren't being sensitive, we weren't using the right pronouns, we messed up, and there was a lot of frustration with us over time, because it takes time. And what we found is that when we went to therapy together, the therapist taught it like it's a journey for everybody. It's a journey for the parents, it's a journey for the kids. And there was less tension in how we were understanding one another, because we realized that it was something that we were all going through and all going through together. And so the idea that sometimes we messed up on pronouns, or our middle child changed her name 5 times. We were like, that's okay. This is a process, but we would get it confused at times, et cetera, et cetera. But being in that process together just really helped, made a big difference. And I can give you the name of the Ackerman Institute if you're interested later, but that I just wanted to offer that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I am definitely interested. Thank you, Paul.
TJ, do you want to chime in on this?
Oh, man. It's the same, right? I have a trans Black daughter. I'm always worried about her. Thinking about my experience growing up, and just thinking about her trying to use the bathroom. I still get uncomfortable using the bathroom, and I'm an adult. So I worry about that often, and keeping her safe is hard work. Nothing has happened yet, thankfully. But with this political climate, it is very rough. You have to think about what states we even thinking about vacation is challenging, because you never know what's going to happen when you go to that state, being Black and trans.
Yeah.
So it's that is my number one worry.
Yeah. Some of us walk at the intersection of those, of being Black and part of the LGBTQ community, right? So we don't get a chance to think either or. We're both at the same time all the time, right? So we have to carry both of those concerns and worries in every room that we walk in. Thank you all for sharing. Thank you all. Go ahead, Dave.
And so with that, I want to kind of even stay in that space. It's amazing as I'm looking through my little script of questions, someone will leave off in a place where we want to go next. So this
Yes.
is, y'all are on it. Y'all don't even have the questions. Y'all got it. Y'all in the spirit. I talked about that
Okay,
spirit earlier.
thank
Y'all in the spirit. All right. So you, TJ, and I'm going to defer to you first since you were there. You talked about the political climate. And we are in a very, very tense political climate. How old is your daughter?
She is 6.
She is 6.
Mhm.
Okay. So certain discussions are not being had yet in terms of where we are politically. But let me then make it more personal for you then, since you're the adult here. What? How are you navigating this political climate? And I'm asking this way because what I will go around and ask is how are parents helping their children to navigate in this climate? But you still have a baby yet there in my own eyes. So how are you navigating? You said there was a little nerves in terms of the restroom, but that's one area.
You know, we're a very informed family, and a very we like to stay on top of what's happening politically. And I won't lie, like there are times where it's given me such anxiety, like I cannot function. I am just like riddled in fear, and it's hard to navigate through. Like I'm still trying to figure out how do we navigate through this climate. Um, there's no there's no right way, because you can we can go somewhere and we are we're on our own. We're like, you know, there's nobody to help. Um, so we how we deal with that is just sticking to what we know and where we know. We go to places that are safe for us. Um, we have people around us who are safe for us, and that is the only way we can navigate this climate.
Wow, thank you. Someone else wants to chime in on how you're helping your children to navigate in this climate.
As young as they are, we do have certain conversations with them, and often we tell them, you know, you're in school, they're safe. They're fortunate to be in a school where um, they're free to express their gender identity, and they're spoken about. They're taught on different identities and so on. And so not only are we doing that job, but we have the teachers doing that job for us. And we keep them informed as much as we can to not get too involved in um, politics at such a young age. But we do keep them informed of safety and how to be safe when we go certain places, and who to ask for help and who not to ask for help. And if you see if you see something that looks unsafe, don't go there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to chime in on that?
Just to
The
echo what TJ said with my kids, just to echo what TJ said, I always taught my children, trust your gut always. If you get that little feeling like something's not right, always, always, always trust it. Don't let your head try to talk you out of what you're feeling, because what you're feeling is something where your body is just picking up on something that your brain may not have registered yet. So trust your gut always. And to this day, my kids say we trust our gut. That's what guides us.
I love it.
it's that vibration and frequency that you feel when something is off, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Exactly, Morgan. Exactly.
The To piggyback on the political climate, the unfortunate part about RSD is that everybody spouts this propaganda, this propaganda, that, and it seems like everybody is mad at everybody else's propaganda but their own. Their own is okay. Their own rhetoric is okay. It's just when it goes against their way of thinking is when it's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest problems that we have collectively, no matter who you are, because your own bubble really is your own bubble. And it's hard to accept sometimes anything into that bubble. So the biggest thing that I tell our children is communicate. Don't chastise. You have to speak. You can't yell. When things don't go your way, you have to be as calm as possible, no matter what. And that's even more that it's a lot harder for me to speak that to the panel that we have here because all of you know that firsthand more than I do. That certain things have to be taken lightly and delicately. But yeah, that's very important to keep a dialogue open and not shut down because you have to have allies in this. And the second that you chastise someone, they're gone. They're out of the picture. They want nothing to do with you anymore. And it's very hard to get them back. So that's one of the things that I try to because you can create a violent situation that didn't need to be if you attack. Sometimes that's just in our nature though. And that's so it's very hard, especially teenagers with hormones that change and constantly, and you don't know how to navigate that as a parent too. Like, what child am I getting today? So yeah, I'm just so glad that we can have these conversations and know that there are many more people out there than we think because you don't know until you meet them.
And you spoke to something very, very necessary in this time, dialogue. And then when there is dialogue on the other, while one is speaking, the other should be listening.
We always listen. We never listen we always have an answer is the problem. Sorry to cut you off. It's no one listens to listen. We all have a response ready. You don't even hear what the person says because you've already determined what your answer was. So
no, you're very correct.
Yeah.
And then when that happens, then we get to the emotion of the situation. And so when emotions get involved, then that's when things often go awry. And so what I appreciate also in what you said is that how you're training your children are to be less reactive. And any of us, we get it for whoever we are, we get it. Okay. In terms of if we're othered, the first thing we want to do is to jump in and to attack, to defend ourselves. But sometimes you're creating a greater conflict. I think is what I'm hearing Morgan say. You're creating a greater conflict when you're reactive. And it's not to say that you don't speak up. It's not to say that you don't defend yourself, but it's a matter of how you're doing it.
Yes.
So I can appreciate that. That's very necessary tools. Anybody else in terms of how they're helping their children to navigate? Paul or Edith? And I want to be calling people out like that teacher. You didn't raise your hand.
Or how
You're gonna go.
Am I playing Call of Duty?
Yeah. Well, of course, Brian's pretty political. Brian's 41, very engaged. Brian lives in California intentionally. Grew up in Ohio, and I'm in Kansas. Brian moved to Ohio right before the 2020 election because they did not want to be in Ohio, having a feeling in case that election went the way that it might. But it's very conscious of where they cannot live and where they cannot move. And even is anxious about coming to visit in Kansas because of the political climate in Kansas. And that was really brought home to me when I asked a person to apply for a position. I worked doing some project work for the United Church of Christ, and the position was in Florida. And the person is trans. And the person said, no go. Very gifted, talented person. And even though the church is a very affirming church in Florida, no go. The inability, the unwillingness, even in the place, the church that is progressive and affirming, no. And, it just breaks my heart. And it's just so wrong. And I know how I need to be reasonable and measured. My anger about it comes out because it's the injustice of it, and the laying it at the foot of the church just is so wrong for me. So don't get me started.
No, thank you. But that's. Can I ask you a little bit more on that, and then Paul, don't fall off, because I want your point on this as well. But you bring up something very interesting, and Kenya and I've had this conversation, and it's always one of those who knows where that's going to go kind of things. But you said something now twice as it pertained to the church. Now you're in an affirming church. And Brian was raised in this affirming church, but yet I still kind of hear a bit of concern. I don't want to misinterpret it, but I just kind of want to. I want to know more about what you're feeling, I guess I'll say, in terms of, you said I don't want to lay it at the foot of the church. What do you mean by that?
Okay, I am in an affirming denomination, okay, the United Church of Christ. But I am well aware that the church, big church, all denominations have done such damage and such hurt to the LGBTQI community. And while the United Church of Christ is affirming, the church generally is not.
Yeah.
There are so many denominations that continue to do damage and hurt and are unaccepting and unaffirming to the LGBTQ community.
Yep.
And that is wrong. And as far as I know, the Bible is about love, not about judgment. And people think of the church and they think of that other church that is condemning LGBTQI people. And people, politicians that say, oh, we can't do this because of the church. That's not my church. That's not the church I know of. And that's what you hear my anger about.
Okay.
That's the church that is judgmental, the church that has hurt the LGBTQI community. That's my anger. That's the source of my anger.
Thank you for that. That's, I don't want to lay there too long because I really could, but what I do want to say to you, and so I did not grow up, and now I was fortunate enough to grow up in a Baptist church that at least it wasn't condemned, nothing was said about it. So I'd rather nothing be said than to be condemned, right? I went to a church later where I was condemned and called a spirit and a demon and all of this other business. But what I do want to offer to you in what you just said about the Church of Christ is
United Church of Christ.
United, sorry.
There's a difference.
They're two different things altogether, because the other one is not affirming at all. But what I do want to offer to you in terms of the United Church of Christ, and I don't know, you work in it, but where I would offer some suggestion is, and I don't know what you all are doing in terms of this, make your voices heard louder.
I know.
I had the actual honor of working in a United Church of Christ just this past summer. I was never familiar with it. I'd passed it many a time as I was driving down this particular road here in Baltimore, and then I was asked to come in as a soloist this summer. But the first thing I asked before going there was, are they affirming? Because I don't even care that I was going to get paid to be there. I will not lend my voice to a place, because we're talking about going into places where we're celebrated, not tolerated. So even for pay, I'm not going to be tolerated.
Right.
And so it was there that I found out about how affirming the United Church of Christ is. And even in there, I've had conversation with the pastor about extending our voice. I think what's going to be so necessary is it's that small remnant group of people. Lord, I feel myself going to have some kind of sermonette here. Please excuse me for anyone who's not on that page, but that small remnant group of people that God is calling to do greater work. So what I would say is, do not become discouraged by what seems to be the larger machine, because it is a larger machine that you're fighting against. Don't be discouraged by that. Use it as a place to be encouraged and become more mobilized to do more, because we do serve a God that is greater than what has been what the other part of the church is kind of putting out there. So again, I don't want to lay in that, but I just felt that in my spirit, because it is so necessary that for people in our community, we know that there are safe spaces for us to be lovers of the Lord, to be called, to be used in our callings and in our gifts. And so I just needed to say that. Sorry for that little moment.
Absolutely.
Someone needed to hear it. I just want to interject real quick. Kelly agreed with you, Edith, especially the Black church as a whole. I work with 2 open and affirming churches in the United Methodist Church, which is splitting over the issue. The church is leaving the UMC. It will be called the Wesley Methodist Church. Historically, the UMC split over segregation as well. So you
Yes.
spoke to someone right here. That's why it's on you to say it. You got to say it. And yeah, David, someone needed to hear what you just said. I know people that are in that same space. I know someone that's dealing with the split of the Methodist Church as well. So thank you for that, David.
Woo, that split. Yeah, and just so that everyone knows that's here, and those who are our guests that are in the listening audience, just know that Kenya and I, that is one of our many discussions that we will be having. And so I'm already even more looking forward to it. I think Edith might be one of those that needs to come back and join us for that conversation.
I'd be happy to. I was an officer of the United Church of Christ. I was associate general minister.
Oh yeah, you definitely did come. Okay, there you go, right there. You're gonna be on. You just consider yourself called in advance. Paul, I want to jump up to you. How are you helping your children to navigate in this political climate?
Well, first of all, I say there's political climate inside our household in terms of making certain that we all understand one another, and that our 2 children who are trans understand and appreciate one another. So I'd say politics kind of starts internally, and externally we have 2 that look at LGBT politics differently. One who has fully transitioned, and for a while has just been uncomfortable around other LGBT kids because she didn't want to be outed. So now that she's becoming more comfortable with the woman she is, the woman that she needs to be, that's changing a bit. But certainly as a result of those fears, she's not been that political, but she does have fear about whether she's going to be a subject of violence or how she's going to be perceived, etc. And then our oldest is kind of fearless and very politically engaged. And we worry a little bit about her because she could wind up getting herself into trouble. But so there's kind of a mixture of how they deal with politics and how we deal with it internally as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to kind of flip it again. So we've talked a lot about how you all are supporting your children, but we know in order to be the support that we need to be for our children, there is still something that we need to do for ourselves, right? And I know in having conversation, I always want to say to parents to extend themselves some grace, because there have been a few moments here where, you know, like I know Paul and Morgan and Jennifer, you all kind of had this related in this area of just having some little flubs there in terms of even just some little mix-ups or some, like I said, I'll leave it at flubs.
Big mix-ups too, not just little mix-up, big mix-ups.
Big mix-ups, some okay.
Okay.
And what is so important is that you all give yourself some grace. Yes, because the other part of this is, and Morgan said this, a lot of this is we're all trying to learn together. And so when we're learning, we're sometimes going to make a mistake, right? Teachers always said in the classroom, always make sure you raise your hand, you ask the question. There is no stupid question. And there isn't. But the reason why people won't ask the questions is because they're afraid of the reactions that they're going to get. But then how will we ever get the answer if we don't ask the question? It's never stupid. But what I want to go to and just kind of that little segue is, how are you all as parents giving yourself grace? What are you all doing for yourselves to make sure that you're keeping yourselves healthy emotionally in every way, shape, or form, so that you can be greater support to parents, to your children, excuse me. Sorry, Kenya, did I cut you off?
No, and mentally, you said healthy, you know, physically,
yes.
like, and mentally as well.
And then, yes.
You are going to take care of yourselves.
And that's more what I meant. I'm sorry. I'm sounding like I'm asking you to go get your physicals. Do that. But really more in the mental space. Thank you for specifying. Thank you, Kenya. Anyone want to jump in there?
Or what have you done? What have you done?
For yourself.
Well, with us, the support is, you know, we support one another as a couple, as a unit, and we are each of our own biggest cheerleader. So we found that, you know, like TJ said, that you know, your children do come first in the safety aspect, but you have to come first in the health aspect, or you can never be who you need to be for anyone, let alone your children. So, and that also sets a foundation for them to look at, because you are the first line of defense. And if you have unhealthy habits, they pick them up as well.
Yeah.
And then that creates, again, could be a lifetime of trauma. We all know food is horrible, that we have. And if you increments, you have to make the right choices, so you can thrive. So yeah, just incremental, making sure that we get good sleep at night, which it's almost past our bedtime.
I personally, I make sure I get up in the morning. I walk on my treadmill, at least if it's cold, it's the treadmill. If I can get outside, I'll get outside. So I walk for 40 minutes. I do 10, 15 minutes of yoga. We go to the gym a couple of days a week. So I think just setting a good example, taking care of our body, and trying to eat well, and being active, and trying to get our teenager to come with us. But you know, we're not cool anymore. So
going on hikes.
So just try. Joyful movement is what we try to do, you know.
I like that. Joyful movement.
And David, I can't remember exactly what it was I said when we did the podcast.
Grow. It was something. Did you write it down? Remember, I said it was T-shirt worthy or coffee cup worthy.
Now, see more.
You didn't write it down, did you?
But it's recorded.
Okay, it is recorded. Okay,
so it is not lost. It is not lost. It will be there, and we will. Yes, because it was very profound.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
It has. It's been very fun though, as much as it has been difficult.
Yeah. We can't get Ollie on board though. Like we can convince him on a hike once in a while, but we haven't quite got him on board. But we're still trucking along, so hopefully
we did take him to this one. We did take him this one overlooking. It was such a strain to get up the hill, but once we got there, he cried because it was so beautiful to look at over the overlook.
He cried all the way up too.
He cried all the way up in pain. But once we got up there and he saw how beautiful, he goes, "Is this what you guys do when you're out?" Yeah. We said, "Yep, this is
that's
we go
the
to
reward."
these places. Yep, this is the reward."
Yeah.
The beauty of what's out there. And it allows you to reflect inside too once you see that you are small compared to what that is.
Yeah.
And that's everybody probably needs to step back and realize that in the grand life of this universe, we're really tiny. And we fight over the stupidest stuff. Well, I don't mean stupid because everybody has their own. It's usually not worth fighting amongst each other over.
Yeah.
It's not worth fighting over who someone loves. So
right.
Exactly. That's very minuscule to me. So your point is very well taken.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. TJ, Sheila, what about you all? What have you all done as parents? Y'all been quiet, listening to everything.
Ain't no surprising when Sheila's quiet.
I'm letting everyone else have a turn before I jump in.
That's terrible how they called you out like that, Sheila. That's awful.
Oh my gosh! Listen, I'm gonna go ahead. I'll talk. So, in terms of navigating the political climate, ever since my kids were little, when I went to vote, they were in the voting booth with me. And so it's like, you know how people have like coming out parties when they're like 16 years old and quinceañeras? Well, for my kids, they were excited about the very first time that they could vote for themselves. And they don't look at the party system. They're looking at the individuals and they're analyzing each individual who's up for election to figure out which candidate they feel, regardless of party, is going to do the best job. I credit that to the fact that one, they grew up in a household where we discuss politics and we did not blindly just follow, yes, we're Democrat, yes, we're Republican, that type of thing. No, let's look at the individual and who is going to be the best person to do the job. Also, when they were growing up, I insisted that they learn another language because I told them, I said, once you finish high school, you need to take a year abroad and become a global citizen so that you can get out of this United States of America and develop a more global and holistic view of other people, other cultures, politics, just everything. Broaden your horizons. So both my kids went abroad after they graduated from high school. And in terms of my mental health and how I take care of me, well, I'm on Prozac. I have therapists. And on bad days, I have my anxiety medicine if it's really bad. And so, but yes, I have a personal one-on-one therapist. I go to group therapy, and I have 2 dogs. So I'm at the Church of Nature each morning with my dogs, out there walking them and exercising them and getting my heart. So like you, Jennifer, I'm not on the treadmill because the dogs aren't going for the treadmill. So we're out there every day, no matter what the weather is. So I do that. And then also, the part of Marion Wright, I think Edelman said that services that is the rent that we pay for living. So I also try to tie in my health with giving back to the community. So one of the things that I have asthma, I have horrible asthma, and the American Lung Association, each spring they have the Flights for Air, where you're helping them raise money. So this year I said, okay, so Sheila, this whole weight loss thing, you got to, kick it up a gear since the doctor's on your back, because of your back. So I said, well, why don't I like do the Flights for Air this year? So I'm going to be climbing 100 flights of steps, and I'm going to have Team P flag. So if any of you want to join, you let me know, and that way you can do it virtually, or you can join me down in Center City come the spring. And so that's how I try to just tie it all together. And that because I'm Jennifer, I'm just gonna say it. I'm not like you. I can't sit there and do, 20 minutes of yoga and get on the treadmill. That's not happening for me. I have to have a purpose. I have to be doing something. So when I'm walking the dogs. And if I'm going to climb steps, I'm doing it for, as a fundraising activity. So that's a little bit of what I do to try to keep myself healthy, in addition to being vulnerable with my adult children.
Mm.
When they were growing up, I was the parent and the guiding force. I think one of the hardest things I've had to learn how to do is grow as an adult, in terms of accepting that I now have adult children, and they have to be dealt with differently because they're now adults. So I have different kinds of conversations with them now that they're adults versus when they were children. And so, when I was a kid, I tried to, as a single mom, sometimes I struggled financially, and I tried to hide that from them. And that way they had a healthy, safe, you know, growing up feeling secure. But, now they're adults. Welcome to Adulting 101, honey. The bills got to get paid. So, now it's different conversations in terms of adulting and dealing with life. And I am vulnerable with them. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, menopause is no joke. So let me tell you what to expect when you get to be my age. And make sure you don't wear your earbuds and play them too loud. Otherwise, you're going to have hearing aids just like me, and you won't be able to hear a doggone thing. So I've just been vulnerable with my kids. And I find that as a result, we have a much healthier relationship.
Yeah.
Because I'm not trying to hide things from them anymore and keep them in that safe, secure bubble. It's like, nope, this is the adult world now. Let's hold hands and get through this together.
Yeah, the vulnerability is important.
We will come to Philadelphia as long as you find us off-street parking.
The funny thing is, I knew when you said that somebody going to join, I was like, "Oh, Morgan and Jennifer going to join." I already knew. Okay,
for sure.
So there you go. Climb every mountain.
We can definitely share that information.
Yes,
that's a great cause as well. TJ, do you have anything you want to join as far as what you do to stay keep yourself?
That's a hard one, because I myself struggling with childhood trauma from being a part of the LGBT community, but not having parents accepting, right? So I am also learning how to not be like my parents. And how I do so is I see a therapist, multiple therapists. I have so many therapists. It's not my new thing. I just hang out at my house sometimes and go to therapy full time. But it's been helpful, and apparently I listen to my wife. I just got a message coming. Yeah, she's also a helpful force in the house. She's also someone who I look up to in terms of parenting, and she has helped me a lot in regards to how to parent our kids and see that like how to relate to our kids, how to see our kids differently, how to see their need for help and their reaction to certain things, versus how I grew up. You know, it's a kid yelling, we yelling back, we having a yell match, and you're just gonna go sit somewhere and you're just gonna listen. So therapy has been helping a lot, and you know, and like Sheila, you know, you gotta have that little pill to help with the anxiety and you know all that thing that comes with all that trauma, and it's been, you know, it's been helpful. I still have ways to go, and that's just part of being a parent. You're still learning as you go, as you get older. You're still learning. Kids change; they're not always who they say they are, and as are we change all the time. So how is it that we can't expect our kids to change? You know?
Right.
Thank you. Yeah, that pill is a serious situation. I have mine too. Look, it's all right. It's okay. Join the club, everybody. Anybody, some more people need pills. We can take it. Leave that alone too. Paula, I don't know. I think I spoke to Edith on this. Or did I? Paula or Edith? I don't think I did. I don't know. I need another pill, I think.
Let me say one thing that I have had to do as a parent is learn to forgive myself. For not, I'm an overachiever, but looking back, I'm not perfect, and I've not been a perfect parent. And learning to forgive myself for the things I know I didn't do right. I made mistakes, big mistakes, and learning to say, you know, you did the best you could with what you knew at the time. And you need to let yourself off the hook for that.
I love
and,
it. Love it. Snaps.
You know,
Yeah.
so forgive yourself.
Yes.
So that's hard. Sometimes the hard thing to do, but keep working and forgive yourself.
That was huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think the forgiveness is something that you have to continue doing. Like it's a process, and I don't think there's an end to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know why there's also not an end, and I've said this. Parenting is the job that never ends. The only time and I don't even think it even ends then. I mean, I think Sheila might have said this in terms of how we parent when they're younger, but then when they're adults, but we still are parenting. It's never going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
I have Josiah's two godmothers, both of which have lost children, and they're still parenting them in cemeteries. So it's that job that we never stop doing. And throughout that process, I'm sure there's going to be so many times where we have to that's why I asked that question about grace, because we've got to give it, we don't intend to do sometimes. We're gonna stumble and fall. But, you know, and I think when Morgan and Jennifer and I, when we spoke, I think one of the big things that you all said, which is so huge in that, was you acknowledge it and you apologize. How many of us, when we were growing up, did not get the apology from there was no acknowledgement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
It just happened. And the excuse was, well, that's just how we grew up. But sometimes you got to know it requires something different. And an apology takes, it's a whole, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that grace. I mean, thank you, Edith, for that. Paul.
Oh, sure. I would just say briefly, aside from exercise, therapy, medication, all of that I use as well. But I used that before. I used that before I had trans kids. Okay, it's been a consistent pattern of my life. I would say what's been most helpful in terms of being involved with PFLAG and going to the Ackerman Institute and talking to others who have trans kids or LGBTQ kids that's been a great form of comfort and therapy, and it's been really helpful for me because one of the things I really appreciate about PFLAG is I have a lot of views that may seem that I'm ignorant or may seem offensive, etc. Because I certainly did not expect to have trans kids, and the fact that I have them and they're beautiful and I want them to be the best, I've transformed. But people don't want to know what my views were prior to having trans kids, the way I was raised, etc. I had pretty narrow-minded views, and those obviously have been transformed significantly, and that's why I really enjoy speaking with others who also share feelings that they had or views that they had prior to having trans kids. We were asked at a PFLAG meeting once, I think just recently, we were asked if we're more sensitive, if we think differently now than we thought before we had trans kids. And for me, that's absolutely. That's a capital A, absolutely. And so anyway, that's what I wanted to share. So just being able to talk and share with us. My wife, just a funny thing, my wife and I hope you all will think this is funny, because it's what we do say. And of course we would be different if this happened, but we always say, if our third child turned out to be gay, we would just jump out the window. It's we had a third. And of course, if that happened, it would be fine and we would figure out a way. But right now there's so much drama with two. If we had a third, it would be just complicated.
No, but I love that because that's real. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I mean, you're not the only one. I'm quite sure. So it's okay. I love that. And that's what this is about. This is that space, because I would tell anybody, saying goes back to that story about the asking of the question. What you're thinking, you're not the only one that thinks it. You just were the bold one who said it, and you gave somebody permission to say, you know what, it's okay. All right, I'm not the only one. Right? It's really okay. So thank you. I like that. Thank you so much for that. And so what I want to ask as we're beginning to wrap up, you all actually inadvertently answered a question that I had about giving some advice to other parents. And if you have some, you can certainly throw that in. But you all, I believe, kind of answered that in terms of how you all are maintaining your own mental health. What I do want to ask you is, what have your children taught you? I think Paul kind of already gave us a little bit, but what have your children taught you in this whole process?
For me, my children taught me that parenting is not about me. It's about them. It's not about me. And I feel like the way that I was raised, it was about what my parents thought I needed to do, who I needed to be. And that's all I knew. But our kids have definitely taught us that it's not about me at all. It's not about me. It's about them.
Yeah.
I like I told you before, David, on the podcast, was I kind of have a different approach to parenting. I'm kind of hands off, but it's all about, you have to make the mistake in order to learn. I'll be here to support you and help you navigate through that mistake that you made. But I'm going to let you make it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You have to make mistakes in order to, and if you learn from them, they weren't mistakes. It's when you don't learn from them when they're mistakes. So that's how I am. And sometimes with Jen, I know it can be tough for her to see me do that. Why aren't you doing anything? No, they got themselves into this and they need to figure out how to get themselves out. And if they can't, then I'll help them.
Yeah. My husband's taught me how to settle down.
Yeah. I guess my career has helped me with that, because I have dealt with adult teenagers for a very long time in the construction field. So that helps. But yeah.
But what did he teach you? Morgan, is the question.
Well, I'm just saying. He taught me that there's a whole another level of respect that you need to have for different types of people. I always felt like I had respect for people, but not to the extent that I needed. So yeah.
That's major.
Um,
Thank you.
Sorry, this is great, but I absolutely have to run now. But I really appreciated the opportunity, and sorry that I have to leave.
No
Okay?
problem, Paul. Thank you so much
for joining
Thank
us,
you, Paul.
Paul.
Yeah,
Thank
bye-bye.
you, Paul.
Bye, Paul.
And so, who wants to jump in now with what you have, the lesson you've learned from your child or children, rather?
My children have taught me that they are not an extension of me. They are their own persons. You know that we used to grow up, I grew up thinking that I represent my family, you carry the burden of whatever you do represents. And my kids they don't buy into that. They are who they are, and they don't carry that burden of they don't buy into that, and they're not an extension of me. They love me, they appreciate me and my husband, but they are their own person.
I love it. I'm gonna jump over because TJ seemed like he won't. Oh, he took it off mute. Okay. See, I was like, I thought this was gonna need some prompting, but then you went on. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Got you.
That spirit, we didn't talk about it today. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I would say the one thing that my kids taught me is how to listen. You're quick to react when something doesn't go the way that you want it to go or you're not used to. And they taught me that I should actually just sit and listen to what they have to say, because there could be more going on. I'm not used to doing that, so it's been hard. But trial and error, we're getting through it, and it's been a journey, and it's been worthwhile.
That's huge. Thank you.
Mhm.
Sheila?
Well, I've learned a few things from my children. They've taught when I was growing up, I was very much like Edith, where, the shoulder, I had the burden of having to be perfect. So because I represented my family, I represented the community, I had to be better than the best. And, my kids, just like your kids, Edith, my kids didn't buy into that at all. And they taught me that I had to take care of myself and learn how to love myself before anyone else. So that way I can be a good role model to them on how they should take care of themselves and setting boundaries with other people, what they're going to put up with and what they are not going to put up with. And they taught me that. As a result, there's an expression that, your life is a theater, and in this theater, you're going to have people who are in the front row. You're going to have some people in the balcony, and some who can't even make it past the usher and get in the door. So, and then sometimes you have to have folks escorted out of the theater. So, one of the things that my kids really helped me to embrace was that my life is a theater, and that in order to love me and totally accept the authentic me, certain people who were toxic in my life, no matter who they were, it could have been a parent. Matter of fact, it is one of my parents. Had to usher them right on out of my life, out of the theater, in order to live my best life, my healthiest life. And I'm grateful to my children for helping me to realize that, because that was a hard, hard lesson to learn.
Mm.
I grew up where, you put up with the BS with the family members, and you just sucked it up, you dealt with it, you put up with the mess every year, Christmas, and the creepy uncle and all this kind of nonsense. My kids are like, oh, heck no. No, they got to go. So those are some of the lessons I learned from my children. I have incredibly wise children. And I've learned, those are just some of the lessons I've learned from my kids. And it's okay to hurt. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to cry and not have to put on this brave parent, I'm protecting you all the time face. It's okay to be human. It's okay to be beautifully human. It's okay to make mistakes. Matter of fact, the more mistakes, the better, because that means that you're learning. Like Morgan said, as long as you're learning, long as you're green, you can still grow. So there you go.
Come on now,
and they get to see you pick yourself up. They get to see if you show your kids how it is to struggle, and you show them also how you pick yourself back up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Come
on, Jennifer. Snaps.
Well, that's
Morgan and Jennifer. Snaps.
Yeah, because earlier tonight we had a conversation in the kitchen, and Oliver seemed upset, and he said that he felt that way because Jen was upset, and Jen said, "Well, me being upset, you don't need to be that way because that's me. Like,
don't carry my burden.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely that goes back to the empatheticness of our child, and amazingly how that came about at such a young age with him, to be able to feel the emotion just by seeing how people he can see how you feel.
Yeah. I just want to say, I think that Sheila, your kids are so lucky to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
My sister's over here.
I'll find some off-street parking for you coming this spring when we do the air.
Okay. Oh, that's how you buttered it up for the on-street parking. Okay.
There you go.
My sister's listening and cheering you on as well, Sheila. Todd.
Okay.
She's loving your
Thank you.
Come on. She said, "Come on, escort out the theater." She's texting me on the side.
Yeah. We all saw Lauren get put out of that theater. So
okay.
Come on. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Kenya, I'm gonna throw it back to you because you done let me ramble.
You know how I do. I don't get in the way of a message. And there was so many messages that came through this live tonight. We have one more question. Well, it's a two-part question. But should I even ask this question anymore? Because I feel like I'll answer it, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. It's a two-part question. What advice can you offer parents navigating this journey, and how can parents best support their children as they navigate this very polarized society? You kind of answered it already, but if you could just sum it up in one bullet for people that's listening.
Patience.
I think listening is probably the most important thing. Is really listening. Yeah.
Patience and listening.
Yeah. And just you have to learn how to be quiet.
And have a discussion, not an argument, because the discussion is to find out what's right, and the argument's to find out who's right.
That part. Come on,
Everybody came on here with their nuggets tonight. Was just said again. It's too many now. I can't remember all of it.
It's recorded. It's recorded.
I'll be watching this later.
Write them down.
Anyone else?
I mean, the major one is this: accept them for who they are.
Well, you
It's
also
so
have to teach.
powerful. Acceptance is so powerful. Like I told David before, it makes our child shine so brightly, so brightly.
The other thing is too is that there's going to be times where your child doesn't accept themselves, and you have to reiterate that it's okay to accept yourself.
Yeah.
Even with the acceptance that there is around your child, and even yourself, like you have to learn to accept yourself, and there's going to be times where you don't. No matter what the struggle is, whether you feel you're not good enough at what you do as a job or just anything day to day, but it's even compounded more when you have so many people against you because of, and it's not even a lifestyle, that is who you are.
Yeah. Your existence. Yeah.
It's not a lifestyle. It is you.
Yep.
Like I've never really liked the word lifestyle because it's not. It's you. That's what you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you for that. Anyway, Edith. I think Edith's the last one left there.
Edith, TJ didn't go either.
TJ didn't go. TJ, we're jumping in now. We don't have to prompt him anymore.
I jumped in there with the acceptance. You hear me?
You did.
Yeah, you said the big one, TJ, just acceptance and love, and just believing them no matter what they say, and accepting them, and finding the right balance. It's hard, I think, sometimes you still got to discipline them sometimes. They don't always get a pass. But finding that balance between accepting them and loving them, and still you got to be the parent that sometimes calls them out. And what's the balance there? They don't get a pass on everything.
Right.
So what's the balance there?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yep.
It's really good.
What's the appropriate consequence?
That's right. They're still teenagers, and they're gonna test you. How far can they go?
They don't even start then. My 6-year-old is.
That's right.
And it doesn't end. It doesn't end.
So we just gonna keep all those pills on tap then.
Sorry, David. I mean, look, we're all adults. We still push envelopes, right?
That's right.
I mean, you kind of have to in order to get a point across sometimes.
That's true.
Yep.
To pick on the political climate, does anybody ever discuss the grassroots starting at the local school board levels and building from there rather than start at the top? It's hard to start at the top because those people are so locked in already that you ain't changing them because there's too much money there.
Excuse me.
Well,
I made that sound a little too loud. Yes. Nervous.
I think you're so right, but we see it all the time. It's so frightening. Think about these school board meetings we see, and it's unconscionable what happens in them now. And so, yes, that's the training ground, right? We're talking about how we're training our children, but you got to get through parents, right?
Yeah.
And
when a lot of them are funded by the people that we can't get through to on the upper level,
right?
They put those people in. So
it's very true. The school board. Well, you let me know how that one works out for you. I think I'm going to stay out of that meeting. They look a little too scary for me. We talked about those safe spaces. But you're right. You're very right. But it is a movement, and so I think the bigger thing here is what you're talking about. Where do we begin with it? Because it does have to start small, right? If we cannot go straight, even if you try to get in contact with a politician, you know that you got to go through 20 different rungs, and then some to get to them, and they're controlled by somebody. That's another conversation, Jesus.
Yes.
But anyway, with that said, it does take these kinds of forums and these kinds of discussions that do cause us all to think about, well, what can we do? I always say nonprofits and those things they are the grassroots. They are the builders. We are the ones who are out in the field doing the work. And so whatever that is that you feel in your own heart, wherever you feel you're best useful, I say then let that revolution begin within yourself, whatever that looks like.
Agreed.
That's just my thought. I don't know, but I'm scared about board meeting. No, they were frightening.
Yeah.
That's what. Go ahead, Kenya.
No, go ahead. Go finish what you're saying.
You were going to do what I was going to do.
Oh, okay. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. Like I was sitting here just like, and you said I was letting you run off because I was just sitting here just nodding my head and nuggeting and just like taking it all in. So much good information was shared, that I think are beneficial for parents of older LGBTQ plus children, parents of younger LGBTQ plus children, and parents of children that they don't know if they're going to be LGBTQ plus, but we're giving them some information so that if that does come up, they know how to react and know how to treat their children, also how to create a safe space for beneficial. I'm reading them. Okay. So I was reading a comment that just popped up, but I think you all gave a lot of valuable information, for a lot of parents that have young children, people that don't have children yet. There's so much. So I want to thank all of you for sharing the information that you have, because it's gonna help someone. I know people that is helping right now that's watching this. And I know as it goes further, there's going to be other people that are going to be beneficial from this. I want to give a special shout out to PFLAG.
Yes! And everybody's welcome. And like I said, we have resources, activism, advocacy. And if you need a hug, we'll give you a hug too.
I know that's right. I was about to say, Angelina, do you have anything you want to add?
That's what I was going to ask.
I mean, I think Sheila and everyone did a great job of like representing PFLAG and everything that we stand for. And I encourage everyone to head over to the PFLAG website. And if you need additional support there, we have over 300 chapters nationally that are available. And like I mentioned earlier, we also have our community support group for different groups of folks. And if you identify with any of those groups, we meet monthly. And you can also find my information on the PFLAG website, Angelina Leon, and you can contact me with any questions. And I'll be happy to connect with you.
Amazing.
And if any of you folks that are on this program, if you have young people where they don't have a gay straight alliance that they have within their school, or maybe they do have a gay straight alliance, but maybe they don't get along with the teacher, the sponsor of the club, give us a call. We'll connect you up. There's an online group for young people to get that kind of support and acceptance and love. So if the GSA doesn't work or you don't have one, trust me, there's a resource out there. And if you're, trans and, you're using duct tape and not using real binders, we'll call PFLAG. We will help you out. Let's get you some healthy binders so that you're not, you stay healthy and you're getting the appropriate accoutrements and things so that you feel comfortable in your body. So generally, in terms of PFLAG, whatever question you have, we're gonna help you figure it out. And we're going to help you find the answer.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you for the invitation to be here and to participate. It's great. It's a great opportunity and really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you. This was amazing. Thank you all so much. It was a beautiful experience.
Thank you.
So happy. Thank
you. I hope
you.
there's a part 2 at some point.
Yes, it's a continual thing. We have this going on every month for the next couple of months. So I'm going to tell everyone that's watching to stay tuned for the next announcement of the next conversation. I just got a message for you. I need to be in the hospital. My mom couldn't speak. Okay. This is for Angelina. Please let me know of all your meetings. I need it. I'm in the hospital with my mom, so I couldn't speak. My 18-year-old son is transgender, and I need help.
Yes. Is there a way that I can write my email address somewhere?
You know what? They shared their email address. I'm gonna write it down. I don't want to put the email address on the main screen, but I'll connect you two together.
Okay. Perfect.
But Miss D. Wash, P-Flag is for you. We can help you.
Absolutely.
We can absolutely support you and help you. Absolutely. Yeah. And your transgender son. Absolutely. Yeah.
And we
welcome to the family.
We have
fantastic
chapter engagement coordinators that work closely with members, new members, people that are interested, and they can work with you one-on-one to get you connected.
That's what I said. You never know who's listening, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
So, I definitely make sure I share P-Flag's information with all the with you two as well, Morgan and Jennifer, so you all can get in touch with one in your area. Again, this has been such a great conversation. I think this is great, especially as we're going into holidays. This is great to know, to give some families some tools to really have a good and happy holiday season. So if I don't speak to you all before then, I want all of you on this call and everyone listening, have a happy holiday.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone. Thank you all
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.